Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, where we talk all about news, comics, and media related to the Transformers. On this episode, we're joined by special guest comic book artist and colorist Thomas Deere as we dig into his work on the Transformers comics. We've also got a roundup of all the Rise of the Beast movie news from South by Southwest last weekend. Today is Friday, March 17th, 2023, and this is episode 329 of Transmissions Alt Mode.
Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that wanted to be everything everywhere all at once, but can barely handle being something, somewhere, sometime first. I'm your host Charles, aka Big C, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team. Super cool comic book colorist Thomas Deere.
Hey guys.
And Daryl, the Cybertronian Beast.
Hi. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I shaved for you. Let's talk Transformers. Oh, sorry, I forgot my entire job here.
That's the only reason you're on the show, Daryl.
Damn it.
Yeah, we're back again, and we are joined by a very special guest, Thomas Deere. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we really appreciate you hanging out with us. And we've already had the toy show. So the toy show was on Wednesday. Everyone saw that. It was really cool. And now we're going deep into Thomas's background, and we're doing a deep dive for alt mode. You know, we're still waiting on Transformers comics. Transformers comics has still not come back. So in the meantime, we gotta fill the time with some content, and we thought, what better way than to talk to an actual Transformers comics artist? So
yeah, we're in a limbo right now.
yeah. So we're eagerly awaiting any announcement that will come up.
Not the fun limbo.
No,
the bad limbo.
All right. Well, as always, we start off the show by thanking our donatrons, those lovely people who support us on Patreon and PayPal. Thank you all so much for continuing to help us out and support the show. We really appreciate it. If you are not a donatron and would like to support the show, just go to transmissionspodcast.com/support, and that's where you can sign up. Of course, you get lots of perks. We got extra content, bonus shows, all that good stuff. And this week we are welcoming a brand new donatron, James. So James, thank you for joining up. We really appreciate it. And we hope you enjoy all that extra content that we've got ready for you. Speaking of which, we've got Daryl's bonus show, We Like Big Bots. And we've got 10 episodes of that show already on our Patreon page for all of our donatrons. So if you are a donatron, and you will have access to that immediately, and you can watch all those episodes, with all the big bots that Daryl and Dr. Pants go through, and they show their love for those giant robots.
And I checked in with Dr. Pants this week, and it's still looking like it might be a little while. So just go back and rewatch those 10 again and again. It's maybe a bit. So yeah, but we are going to make some more when Dr. Pants is ready to go, and just think that we're taking this time to acquire more big bots. So yeah.
All right. But we've also got bonus content for our Transformers Live Play RPG podcast, Empire of Rust. This is done by our awesome producer and editor, Mike. Every other week, we do the bonus shows that give you access to the episode early, so you get a little bit earlier and unedited with lots of extra content. This week, we already had episode 97, and that was Assume the Party Escort Submission Position. So that was the regular free main episode that was up on our free feed, transmissionspodcast.com/rust. And next Monday, after you hear this, you can listen to episode 98, the bonus version of episode 98. That will be available on our Patreon page for all our donatrons to listen to it early. And if you're not a donatron, just got to wait another week for episode 98 to come up in the free feed. So membership has its privileges. All right. With that out of the way, let's get into a deep dive with Mr. Thomas Deere. Okay, Tom, thanks for coming on. It's great to have you. So, I mean, since we haven't had a chance to talk to you before, but we've run into you several times at conventions, at TF Cons in the past. It's always great to talk to you. We've bought some of your art.
Right.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about like how you got into the comics industry and becoming an artist in general.
Sure. It's a bit of a long story. I hope we have the time.
We got time.
So I'll say first that I always wanted to be a comic book artist. When I went to college, I went to illustration and design at a college in Montreal. When I graduated, I was working in a curriculum office, designing school materials, posters, and books and stuff like that. But I was sending portfolios to different companies, and I'd say that I had very little luck in getting my foot in the door anywhere. And then somewhere around 2003, Dreamwave had acquired the license for Transformers, and it seemed like they were doing a pretty good job. I really wanted to be a part of that. I actually ran into Pat Lee in Toronto. I think it had to be around 2003, and we had the opportunity to chat a little bit. But in 2004, Dreamwave had an art contest to design an alternate version of Megatron. So I submitted 2 designs. And here's a little side story is I drew the picture, I scanned it in the computer, I colored it, and my computer died. I had a heck of a time trying to get that computer fixed so I could get the image off the computer and send it in. And I got it in just under the nose. And probably about 2 months later, I was told that I got second place in the contest. And so I was pretty happy about that. And I got a call from Dreamwave, and they wanted to make arrangements of how I was either going to have my prizes mailed to me or if I wanted to come and pick them up. So I said, because Toronto's in fair driving distance from Montreal, I said, well, would I be able to drive there, pick up my prizes? But if it was possible, could I show my portfolio? And they told me, they said, actually, we're going to ask you the same thing. If you were going to come in, we'd like to see your portfolio. They said that what they were really looking for was comic book colorists at the time. And if I would be willing to do an assignment over the weekend, they would consider me. So I'll say at the time I kind of taught myself how to color comics. I was really not fast, and I was really nervous about how I was going to pull this off in a weekend. They gave me a piece of Pat Lee art to color. It took me probably every hour of the weekend to do. I had arranged with my wife to do the driving to Toronto because I was going to be up that whole weekend. I pulled it off. I made my appointment. I met with Pat Lee. We went through my portfolio. We went through the assignment that they gave me. And they pretty much said that if I was interested in being a colorist, they would pair me with somebody at Dreamwave to kind of like teach me, to mentor me. And they had paired me with I don't know if anybody remembers the Dreamwave days, but there was a man named Rob Ruffalo that was there.
Yep. Yep.
Rob was reviewing some of my work, and it was going all right. And after a couple of assignments, I noticed that they weren't really contacting me or responding to my emails. I got a little bit nervous about that. And then I ran into Pat Lee at a Toronto show called Fan Expo. And I told him, the editor, I can't remember the guy's name, isn't answering me. Nobody's reviewing my assignments. Is there something wrong? Is there something going on? They said, well, we're just really busy. Turns out that the editor had left, and that's why he wasn't contacting me. And he says, you know what? Come in Monday morning. Let me see personally where you're at. So I drove back to Toronto, met with Pat Lee. He looked at my work, and he said, instead of coloring, how would you like to be working on sequentials? I said, I couldn't say no to the opportunity that was there, but I knew that I really stunk as a sequential artist, and in doing interiors, I knew that I just don't have it in me to do that kind of storytelling. But I was game to give it a shot. And if Pat Lee thought that I'd be able to handle it, then maybe I could. So he sat me down in the boardroom at Dreamwave, and he told me how to draw for Dreamwave. So he gave me pretty much instructions on how to draw like him, and how hands are drawn, how the faces are drawn, and so on. I wasn't complaining. I was just thrilled to be there and having the opportunity. So he ended up giving me a script and told me, when you finish 5 pages, send them in, I'll review them. I worked out for the first 5 pages, and then the next batch of pages he assigned to me, I didn't hear back again. I got a feeling that something was going on, but I wasn't too sure. And in like December of 2004 or 2005, I can't really remember now, I saw the news that Dreamwave had gone bankrupt. And I did write to Pat Lee asking what had happened. And surprisingly, he wrote back to me, because I hear that he didn't really talk to anybody else. And all he told me was he really apologizes. It's a bad position that he was in. He had to make a serious decision, and he just apologized. And that was the last time I had ever talked to him. But it crushed me, because I thought, well, that was my shot. I don't think I would have another opportunity like that. It was convenient that it was a Canadian publisher. It seemed to me that it would be easier to get my foot in the door in a Canadian publisher than it would be, like, let's say, Marvel or DC. So I was pretty crushed. Not too long after, I did hear the news that IDW got the license. I sent in portfolios, never got any answer back. So not too long after, well, I'll say that while I was doing some work for Dreamwave and being involved in the Transformers fan community a bit at the time, I did make friends like Josh Burcham and Josh Perez and some other guys. And sometime in 2005 or 2006, Josh Burcham emailed me and asked me if I was aware that the television show I Love Toys, which was on VH1 or MTV, I can't remember, had one of my illustrations in, like, behind the talking heads, and I was not aware, and I don't know where they got that image. It was a drawing of Soundwave that I did. I would not want to share it because I'm really embarrassed by that drawing now, looking back. But they used it. They thought it was good enough to use. So I didn't know where they got it, or they never had permission to use it. The only place that I knew I used that illustration as part of a submission was Fun Publications. So I reached out to Fun Publications and I asked them, I sent you guys a portfolio. I noticed that VH1 used one of the images. Did you guys let them use it? Like, what happened there? And then Pete Sinclair from Fun Pub got back to me and said, it's funny that you say that. We noticed that image was used, and we said, hey, isn't that somebody's drawing that they sent in their portfolio? And so that's how I kind of met the guys at Fun Pub. And I said, well, while I have you here, do you need any work? And they said, well, not right now, but we'll keep you in mind. So a few months later, my wife and I were planning to go to San Diego Comic-Con as kind of like a little vacation. And just before we were leaving on the trip, I got an email from Fun Pub saying we have a coloring assignment. The person we had hired backed out on us, and we need to know right now if you could do it. And well, I couldn't say no to an opportunity like that. So I packed my laptop. It was a coloring gig. And the artist was a guy named Jake Eisenberg. I don't know if you guys know Jake. He did a lot of work. He did a lot of work for Fun Pub in the early days. And so we went to San Diego Comic-Con. I actually met Josh Burcham in person the first time at that show. That was in 2006. And I spent a good part of my time in my hotel room trying to get these pages done. And I guess they liked it. And I started getting more work. And a couple of months later, I was off to Geneva, Switzerland for, if anybody knows me personally, I'm involved in some politics for the advancement of Indigenous rights. So I was sent by my community to the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland for a conference. And it all just so happened that I had another assignment. So it must have been a funny scene that I had my laptop amongst all these diplomats that were at this conference, and I was coloring Transformer comic books. So I ended up starting work for Fun Pub in 2006, and for the next few years, I was doing consistent work for them on Transformers and G.I. Joe. Of course, my goal was to get my foot in the door at IDW. So while I was working at Fun Pub, I did get to meet a lot of guys that were at IDW. And for one assignment, I was paired with Guido Guidi. And Guido offered to talk to his editor, who was Denton Tipton at the time. Mm-hmm. And so he mentioned me to Denton. Denton took a look at my work and he said that he would keep me in mind. I think they changed editorial not too long after that to, I can't remember that guy's name. He never answered me though. And then
Andy Schmidt?
Yes. Yeah, he never answered me. Andy never answered me. So after Andy, I guess that's when John Barber took over. And John and Carlos Guzman contacted me. This has to be maybe 2010. Yeah, 2010. And they said same thing that Fun Pub told me. We're in bind. The guy that was working on this particular comic backed out on us. We need to know right now if you're in and coloring an issue of G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. Now, going back to like when I was 7 years old, I remember my mother taking me to like the local store, and I had heard people talking about G.I. Joe, and I saw this Marvel used to make these like oversized comics, and they made this oversized G.I. Joe issue 1, and I begged my mother. I said, can I get that? Can I get that? She bought it for me, and I fell in love with G.I. Joe. Before I fell in love with Transformers, I fell in love with G.I. Joe. And now, so many years later, in 2010, I had an opportunity to work on that same exact series with the Larry Hama. So it was issue 163, I think. So I worked on that issue night and day. I wanted to make a good impression, and so that's how I got my foot in the door at IDW. And it's like I became the official fill-in. So when Josh Burcham couldn't pull off a deadline, or Josh Perez, or anybody else that was doing colors at the time, they would bring me in. So I was like the official fill-in for the next few years. So from 2010 and up until this past summer, I've been working for IDW, and I'd say for Fun Pub right until the end. What was that? 2014, 2015. So I was doing work for them up until then as well. I had the opportunity through IDW to work on other franchises that I love. I got to work on some Godzilla. I got to work on Star Trek, Star Wars. I got to work on Mask, and a lot of other little Hasbro titles. So IDW was the vehicle for me to do what I love and have a dream come true.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Very cool.
Do you, back to the right near the start, you mentioned you came in second place in the Dreamwave contest. Do you know who came in first?
He had a handle. It wasn't a real name, and I can't remember. I don't really remember running into that guy later on in the fandom, but I remember him. I remember him being a part of the fan community around that period, but not much longer after.
But they never actually continued on into art. No.
And there was another guy. The third place winner was a person named Apollo, and him too. It's like he disappeared
right
after. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's very cool.
Yeah, but of course, there's not much money in comics, so I had to keep my day job, and so a lot of long nights, and I think about that decade. I had 2 small children, and I have no idea how I was able to pull off those deadlines with such little sleep, and it was pretty hard. So when IDW lost the license for Transformers, there was a little bit of relief for me, because I don't know at my age if I could even do that anymore. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's still awesome that you got to fulfill a dream from your childhood. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm really grateful. I'm really thankful for the way everything turned out.
Yeah.
A lot of thanks probably goes to your partner as well, right? Like a lot of support, sure. And they know that you're working away in your studio, and then just you're trying to do stuff, so shit needs to get done. So they pick up the slack when needed, right?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Supportive partners do that.
I think about that first IDW gig I did on G.I. Joe, and I remember telling my wife, this is really important. I really got to make a good impression. I have to make my deadline. I'm going to have to ask if you could pretty much do everything for the next 2 weeks. And she did. And I guess I wouldn't have been able to pull it off without her,
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. Oh, could you give us a little bit of information about your day job? You mentioned like going to Geneva and participating at like with the like as an ambassador. So what kinds of things do you like? What is your day job entail?
So I work for an organization called the Kaniakahaga Ungwawanardao Di Jokwa Language and Cultural Center. It's in my community. My community is called Kahnawake. It's a Mohawk territory that's just on the south shore of Montreal. And the Language and Cultural Center, we have the mandate in the community to be sort of like a headquarters for our community to come and learn about who they are, really. So we do have a school as part of our organization where we teach the Mohawk language, and I probably contribute. I wear a couple of hats at that job. I'm the resident graphic artist, so I work in curriculum, developing Mohawk language materials, and even right down to drawing out legends that we have in our community. But I'm also the librarian, like Optimus Prime, and and I work as the cultural liaison. So if there's any people that ever come to our center or call us or email us, and they're looking for some kind of information, specifically historical, cultural, I'll share with them what I know, and what I don't know, I point them in the right direction. So that's my day job, but I also volunteer for our traditional council in our community. So that's more political, and sometimes they'll send me to different places to represent the nation. So like, for example, the United Nations, I've been there a bunch of times, and I've been involved with the doing work for the nation for pretty much 30 years. I've been volunteering with the nation.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you could see how hard the juggling would have been at the time when I was doing comics. So that was like a lot of my evenings was, no sleep mm-hmm. that decade.
Yeah.
But I'll say, one of the things I've noticed, especially in the past maybe 8 years of being in the industry, is after a while it wasn't so much creating content on Transformers. It was the friendships that I made in the fandom, in the industry. And, it really sucks that I have to sit out at TFCon this weekend. I love seeing everybody at these shows and having the opportunity to hang out with everybody. But I'll say that that's one of the biggest benefits of getting involved with this fandom, this industry, is just meeting all these great people.
That's why you're here tonight.
Yeah.
We're having our own little TFCon here.
Yeah, I definitely I second that, Tom. I mean, we've met you in person several times at different TFCons, and getting to talk to you and all the other artists at IDW that's been a real treat for doing this podcast. I mean, that's something that personally, as a fan who just kind of never really contributed, but read the comics and watched all the shows and everything, but getting the chance to talk to people on this show and get to dig into all the things they've done has been a treat for me and for us here. So thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I want to kind of merge one of my passions and something we've talked about, at I think it was Chicago last year, because you designed a jersey for the Montreal Canadiens, and that's that is very cool. And if you could talk about that experience, and I watched the game. They use it in the warm up, so that's a very cool thing. And that you described it to me, and I know that you said you weren't a big hockey fan, but I'm still in awe that you got to do it. So Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I loved hockey when I was a kid, right? And whatever happened, I chose boxing over hockey.
Hey, that's still hockey, just no skate.
But I'll tell you, I could still recite every player on the Montreal Canadiens, like in the 1982 season. Yeah. So last year, right around this time, I was contacted by a person that works at our town's administrative office, and he told me that they're looking for somebody to design a jersey for their Indigenous celebration night. And so when they contacted the administration office, the first person he told me was that they thought of me. So they wanted to know if I was interested in doing it. And I was reluctant at first because I was planning a trip, my first post-pandemic vacation with my family to Florida. And, so we were saving up that whole time, and now we were finally going to be able to go on this trip. So I think that they had contacted me on Thursday, and I told them I don't think I'd be able to pull it off. I'm leaving Monday morning, and it's Thursday, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to pull off a jersey design by Monday. So, and I think they were planning to give me a week, but I was going to be away, so that's why it was going to be such a short deadline. So I actually told them at first, I'm sorry, I won't be able to do it. There's a couple of other artists that I could recommend in the community that could make something hopefully quick. And they told me that they really wanted me and that I should consider it. So I got off the phone and I talked to my wife about it. I talked to some people at work, and they were saying, well, why not just tell them that you have a few days, and if they don't like what you're suggesting, then they could look at these other artists. So I ended up calling them back, and I said, if you're willing to give me a shot, I could work my butt off until Monday morning, and if you don't like what I produce, then you could look at these other artists. And they said, sure. So Friday is when I started, and I'll say from Friday to Monday morning, I worked day and night, and I probably came up with almost 24 different designs, and until we refined something that the Canadiens liked. So a lot of the design work that I had to do, I had to explain what the symbolism behind a lot of the images that I chose to incorporate into the design. And I think when they were able to have that explanation go along with the design, they just loved the concept and they went with it. So Monday morning came. They said, all right, we're more than satisfied, and have a good trip. And when you get back, we'll talk about the next steps in having these jerseys produced and the actual Indigenous celebration night. So I get back from our vacation, and I think 2 weeks later, they gave me tickets to the game, Indigenous celebration night. I had great seats, by the way, and they superimposed my design onto the ice, and everywhere, the logo that I designed, the images that I designed, it was just everywhere. It was fantastic. I had a good buddy of mine who's a Canadiens fan, and I invited to come to the game with me, and he was really into it and had a great time. It turned out to be a really great experience, and I'm glad I did it because I came really close to saying no.
It was a very cool experience, and I'm very happy for you. You got to do that.
Yeah, thanks. And I was a Canadiens fan as a kid, so I like to think in terms of making that 6-year-old kid happy. And the same thing with Transformers and G.I. Joe, it's making that kid happy.
Yeah. Maybe we could go back. You mentioned your how you fell in love with G.I. Joe. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into Transformers as a kid? I think we talked before the show. We're about the same age, so 8 years old in 1984 when Transformers hit the scene. So
yeah.
So how did you get into it?
Well, my first love was Star Wars. So Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. I was all in. But after Return of the Jedi, it was like there was no more. Like even with my toys, I had no more story. The movies were over. The story was over. What could I do? And it was right around that time that kids in my neighborhood started talking about G.I. Joe. And this was before the cartoon, by the way. This is around the time, I guess, the comic came out first. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and probably some of the toys. And so, like I said, my mother and I went into a store and came across the first issue of G.I. Joe. And I probably collected it monthly, at least for 25 issues. So the first 25 issues, I probably collected it each month. So I was all in. Got my G.I. Joes that Christmas, and when the cartoon started, the first 5-episode miniseries, like I was all in. And then I started hearing about something called Transformers a year or two later, and the same story. This time I was with my dad, and we went into some magazine store, and there was issue 1 of Transformers, and I gave it a shot. And I think the cartoon probably came out maybe when the 2nd or 3rd issue came out, because you could see the design of the comic started turning more and more into what looked in the cartoon. But I could still remember that fall when the first 3 episodes of More Than Meets the Eye came on, and I was all in. And I was there in 1986 when the movie came out. Sorry, my cat is requesting. Sorry, guys.
The cat's been behind you the whole time. It's just peeking up over your shoulder. It's making cameo appearances.
Yeah, so I was there in 1986 for the movie, and I was there when Optimus Prime died.
First time.
So the first time. Yeah. But even back then, I had my sketchbook and trying to replicate the scenes, and I have some super early artwork from 84, 85 of Cybertron, and trying to map out where everything is on Cybertron. Yeah. So,
that's awesome.
All in.
So, did you stick with Transformers through the 90s? Like, did you stick around for Beast Wars and that stuff, or was it when Dreamwave came back that you kind of got reignited or re-interested in the fandom?
Pretty much when I was 14 in 1990, and I just had no interest in Beast Wars. Same thing with what was it, G.I. Joe Extreme or Sergeant Savage or whatever it was.
Yeah,
I just really lost interest in pretty much the entire decade of the 90s, and just was a regular teenager, sullen, miserable. But then I remember when Armada had come out and Energon. I remember that kind of stoking some interest again. I remember buying some of the toys, not being terribly impressed with the cartoon, but I remember enjoying the Dreamwave Armada comics, the Energon comics. I did enjoy those, but but when those series came out, it kind of stoked my interest again. But yeah, I'd say in the 90s, it was like a lost decade.
Yeah, I mean that's teenagers have other priorities.
Yeah. But I liked some of the other Hasbro franchises. Like I was a big Inhumanoids fan, so I had a bunch of the Inhumanoids toys. I had the comics that was being done by Marvel. They had like a smaller subsidiary called Star Comics, if you remember. But I loved Inhumanoids.
Cool. All right, are you still buying any toys today? Like, do you still have a collection that you pick up, or are you staying away from that?
In the past few years, I'd say that I kind of stopped collecting. I just, I started running out of space. But if it's any of my favorite characters, I'll probably pick them up. So, like, I love Galvatron. That's probably one of my favorite characters. Anything Shockwave, anything Cyclonus, I'll pick up.
Purple, your favorite color?
Yeah, pretty much. But I'll say the only thing I'm really collecting regularly right now is the Super 7 toys. So
okay.
The action figures. So
Mm-hmm.
G.I. Joe, I've been picking up all the G.I. Joes, and on eBay I picked up one of the old G.I. Joe headquarters, and I've been populating it with all these Super 7 figures. Same thing with Transformers. I've been picking up those Super 7 figures, and I think right now those are the most that interest me. I think the reason why they're so interesting is because that's the toy I wanted in the 80s, because they looked like the cartoon. And yeah. So Super 7 is all I'm collecting these days.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've gotten a lot of information about you, but I think we got to go a little bit deeper.
More.
Yeah. You mentioned you've I guess you've seen previous transmissions interviews where we do the rapid fire questions at the end of the interview. So it's your turn now. So we're going to take you through it.
I'll try to keep up.
All right. Starting off with an easy question: Autobot or Decepticon?
Autobot.
And who's your favorite Autobot?
Optimus Prime. I'm sorry it's cliche, but he's the perfect archetype.
No, there's a reason they keep making his toy,
Yeah.
All right, Transformers live action movie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or Bumblebee?
I'm partial to Dark of the Moon. I'll go with Dark of the Moon, even though I'd say that Bumblebee is a stronger film.
Okay.
But Dark of the Moon is almost like watching the Ultimate Doom in the cartoon series. So I enjoyed it when it came out.
Cool. Okay, comics, More Than Meets the Eye / Lost Light, or Robots in Disguise / Optimus Prime, Till All Are One, or the Transformers 2019 series?
More Than Meets the Eye, Lost Light.
Yeah.
Love it. Just love it.
Yep. Third-party toys, yes or no?
Yes.
Cats or dog?
What's that?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, how else am I going to get my Cybertronian modes?
Yeah.
I mean, I know Hasbro been making some characters these days, but those are the figures I dreamed of as a kid, and third party are the guys that make them. So yeah, I'm a third party guy.
Cool. Daryl appreciates that. All right, cats or dogs?
Cats. We have a dog who's actually sniffing at my door right now. It was It was just to appease my kids who wanted a dog, but I'm not a dog person. I'm a cat person.
Fair enough. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Chicken or steak?
But I'll qualify that by saying I only started drinking coffee when I started working on comics because I need to stay up. And before my 20s or before my 30s, I should say, I was a tea guy, and then I discovered coffee, and I have my coffee.
Chicken or steak?
Steak.
Pepsi or Coke?
Coke. No hesitation.
No hesitation.
No.
Burger King or McDonald's?
Burger King.
History or science?
History. I love a good story.
Cool. Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo Switch?
Xbox.
PC or Mac?
PC.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone. Sorry. It chose me. I didn't choose it.
Is there a phone app you can't live without?
If iTunes counts, I probably can't live without iTunes.
Just music in general. Gotta have music, right?
Yeah.
Marvel or DC?
That's a tough one. I'll go with Marvel.
And who's your favorite Marvel?
But I've been known to shift back and forth.
Okay.
But, go with Marvel. Yeah.
Well, who's your favorite Marvel character?
Punisher.
Ah, okay.
I discovered Punisher in the late 80s, and it's been my favorite Marvel character since then.
Cool. He's coming back to the MCU. I saw that they're bringing him back.
In Daredevil, he's coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stallone or Schwarzenegger?
Hold on a second.
So got to be Stallone then. for those not watching the video.
Yeah. I'm a Stallone fan. I'm a fan of both, but I'll go with Stallone because I'm like the biggest Rocky fan.
Yeah.
Oh, the boxing. Right.
The boxing.
Did that transfer over to the Creed movies? Are you watching the Creed movies too?
Yeah, I love the Creed movies. I'll say that Creed 3 is probably the weakest of the trilogy.
Okay.
But I didn't not enjoy it. I enjoyed the movie. It's just I thought it was the weakest of the three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Pixar or DreamWorks?
Pixar.
Yeah, I don't even know. Is DreamWorks still around these days? Is DreamWorks doing anything anymore?
Oh, I think so. I think they're still kicking.
I'm not sure.
Do you have a guilty pleasure movie that you'll always watch whenever it's on? I don't know if people still watch cable and just flip through channels anymore, but
I know I have probably a few, but the first that comes to mind is The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh, okay.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
If it comes on, I gotta watch it.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, you can't do this to me. I forfeit that question. I love them equally for different reasons.
Okay.
They're your children.
Simpsons, Family Guy, or Rick and Morty?
Oh, Simpsons, easily.
Yeah. You're old school like us.
Yeah.
You remember the good seasons.
Old.
Old Simpsons, yeah. 90s Simpsons. Walking Dead or Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones. I think I was interested the first 3 seasons of Walking Dead, and then I lost interest.
Yeah. Sports, NFL, MLB, NHL, UFC, NBA, or Premier League.
Might have to throw boxing in there too.
If
What's
boxing,
the what's
if boxing was in there, it'd be boxing. But I'd say that UFC is probably the runner up. Although I like football, I just don't really have an opportunity to watch it that much like I used to. But I'll go with UFC, preferably boxing.
For someone as busy as you, sitting down to spend hours just watching the television seems like a waste of time.
I don't really, yeah. I watch a little bit of TV at the end of the day, but yeah. These days, I get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm in bed by 10 o'clock, so I don't really have much time to watch TV.
Well, we appreciate you taking your time out to do this, to do the show with us. Sorry for keeping you up past your bedtime.
No, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
All right, 2 more questions. Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, or Volkswagen Beetle?
Lamborghini, just because I love the 80s. I love Sideswipe, and yeah, Lamborghini.
All right. And last question, blonde, brunette, or redhead?
Brunette. If in case my wife is listening, brunette.
Okay, you did it. We made it to the end. All
fun.
right. Yeah. Thanks again for sitting down with us and for just coming on with us for the whole week on transmissions. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. And the show's not done yet. We've got a little bit of Transformers media news to talk about, and then we'll kick off the show. So I'm going to throw it over to Daryl.
All right. And we are going to start off media news by talking about Transformers EarthSpark. And it has a DVD Amazon listing. So if you're looking to buy the first 10 episodes of season 1 on DVD, you can do so. There is a link in the story here. If you want to check out the show notes, you can do that and pre-order it. So there's no date yet for this, but you should be able to pick it up. And next up, we've got a Transformers Rise of the Beast theater standee. So this is something you should start seeing at your local movie theaters. If you go to them in person, you don't just stream all the movies. They're trying to get everyone back into the theaters. So the marketing chain is starting to go into full swing here, and this is what the standee is looking like. It's pretty epic. There's a lot of characters on this thing, so it's pretty cool to see. You got Cheetor, Rhinox, Airraiser, Primal, Prime, Bumblebee, Mirage, and RC all featured on this standee, and so it's very cool, very colorful, which is something that has not been able to be said of the previous live action movies. So that'll be cool. And it's remind everyone it's in theaters June 9th. So there it is right there on the standee.
Not a human in sight. Love it.
Exactly. Next up, we have a official Transformers Rise of the Beast poster and turnaround videos. This is a video on YouTube, and essentially it's just showing something. I don't know. I've seen this reminds me of the old the end of the X-Men cartoon, where they just remember the 90s X-Men cartoon where all the characters kind of got featured and then they just did like their turnarounds. It's a real short video, but it just kind of turns around and shows Primal and Optimus. But yeah, whatever. It's something that they're doing. And what was this featured on? I don't know where this was, where people are seeing this, but
Paramount Rise of the Beasts app.
Oh,
that's the posters. They're also from the app here.
Okay. Well, the two posters that are featured show not Jazz. Oh my God, this is going to happen all the time. Mirage, and Optimus Prime, and then the turnarounds are what we just saw there on the screen. So if you're not watching the video, there's a link in the show notes. Next up, and this thing has been all over social media. So if you are in one of the following cities, you will be able to see life-size to scale versions of Rise of the Beast, Optimus Prime, and Optimus Primal statues. These were on display at South by Southwest this past weekend, and they are going to do a worldwide tour. So these things are massive. There were pictures, like I said, all over Twitter and all sorts of social media showing these things. They're massive. So in the U.S., it's going to be in Austin, Texas from March 17th or 10th to 17th. So that's where it is right now. That's the South by Southwest. In April, it's going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada from the 24th to the 8th. That's a shame because I'm going to be in Las Vegas at the start of April. I miss it. In Chicago, it'll be there between May 16th through the 26th. And in New York, it's going to be there from June 2nd to the 8th. If you're in Sao Paulo, Brazil, it will be there on March 15th, just a single day. And then if you're in Singapore, it will be there March 16th. And sometime in early August, it will be in Tokyo, Japan. So there you go for that. But if you are in those areas and you do get a chance to go see them, check them out. They are massive, massive statues. Very cool. Next up, CinemaCon 2023 is going to be hosting a special event for Transformers Rise of the Beast. And this is like it's just a party, like an event. It's an hour and a half party. It's celebrating Transformers Rise of the Beast. Their description of it is, come join the fun at a special outdoor party complete with great food, drinks, entertainment, and a surprise or two. It's going to be a bot time in the old town tonight.
Boo. Dad joke.
Boy.
Alert.
This is going to be taking place on Wednesday, April 26th, and I guess this is online. What this is? Yeah, so it's online. So it's hosted by Movie Phone. Yeah.
I guess if you're not a VIP, you can watch people having fun at the event.
Yeah. So it says Caesar's Palace main entrance limo lot. So if this is taking place in Las Vegas, Caesar's Palace, then that will be the same weekend or the same time that the giant statues are in Las Vegas. So, yeah, CinemaCon, that makes sense. Yep, it's labeled. It makes it lines up with the date on the previous story for CinemaCon. So
yeah, I think it said CinemaCon was at the CinemaCon. That's the where the event is. So yeah,
so there you go. So if you're going to be in Las Vegas on specifically Wednesday, April 26th, then perhaps check out Caesar's Palace. And the last story we have is South by Southwest 2023 is going to be hosting a special panel for Transformers Rise of the Beast. This is sponsored by Porsche and will feature producer Lorenzo de Bonaventura, director Stephen Capel Jr., and actors Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback. And the official announcement is featuring Porsche and Transformers Rise of the Beast. So this has a little bit to do with the commercial that was during the Super Bowl. Porsche is a big sponsor of Transformers Rise of the Beast. So this will be on March 10th. Oh,
it's already happened.
We missed it, Charles. So it's at Porsche House, or was at Porsche House. What did they talk about, Charles?
I mean, I didn't. There's video and stuff. I mean, we haven't watched it yet, but like they've got the stand, they've got the giant statues there. They've got and there's also we've got links to several videos with the actors here. Like, yeah, here's all the videos. So,
oh yeah, very cool.
There's big stuff. So we'll have all the links in the show notes, but it looks like it was a big event this past weekend at South by Southwest. So it's a big marketing push for Rise of the Beasts. So Tom, are you excited for Rise of the Beasts?
Yeah, I am. Especially my oldest son, who's 14, is a big Beast Wars fan. So he's really excited for this movie to come out, and that's making me excited, even though I'm not the biggest Beast Wars fan. But I loved Bumblebee. I have a feeling that this is going to be a great production. So yeah, I'm excited.
Cool.
You know, they filmed a little bit of this film in Montreal.
They did, yes.
I didn't get a chance to go check out the production, but coincidentally, my mother happened to be in Montreal while the filming was happening, and she saw some of what was going down. And his handle Proto Man. You guys know Proto? You know Daniel?
Yeah, we know him.
And he was sharing a lot of footage of what he saw anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Looks like fun.
All right, so that's all our media news, and let's finish up the show with some convention news. Okay, one bit of convention news comes from a friend of the show, Andrew Lee Griffith, who's going to be at C2E2 coming the end of March. So March 31st to April 2nd in Chicago. That's the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo, C2E2. So if you check out Artist Alley, go say hi to Andrew Lee Griffith, maybe get a commission done, maybe just buy some artwork. Check it out. I don't think maybe Jeremy might go. I don't think we're going to make it, but Jeremy might go. He's very close to Chicago, so he might make it. Tom, do you have any convention appearances coming up soon?
The only convention that is coming up, but it's only in the summer, is the Montreal Comic Con. It's a pretty big show, but it's usually the second week of July, so it's still a little bit of a ways away. But I definitely intend to go to TFCon in Orlando. Unfortunately, Montreal Comic Con is usually the same weekend as TFCon in Toronto. So that's why I often don't do that show. I do better at the Montreal Comic Con than at TFCon Toronto. So yeah, that's all I have lined up right now is those two shows.
Okay.
Do you have to be bilingual to go to the Montreal Comic Con?
Oh, not at all. I can't speak French, even though I live in Quebec. I can't speak French, but it's not a problem. They have artists, a lot of artists from New York City that appear at that show.
Oh, sure, yeah,
and from Ontario. So there's a lot of English speakers. Dan Kana is often at the Montreal show.
Cool.
I've
never been to the Montreal Comic Con.
It's a big show. It's a really big show.
Likely because I go to TFCon.
But have you been to Fan Expo in Toronto?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's not
before
as
the pandemic. I've gone before the pandemic. I went for like 7 years in a row. That was a big show.
It's not as big as that show, but it's a pretty big show.
All right. Well, I think that takes us to the end of this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode. Again, Thomas Deere, thank you so much for joining us on Alt Mode and on the toy show for this week. Anything that you want to plug, or tell everyone where they can find you online, or anything you got coming up, and anything you just want to highlight?
Not really. I will mention that I did a little bit of work for Marvel Studios, not in terms of artwork so much, but I had worked as a consultant on an upcoming series called Echo for Marvel Studios.
Yeah.
Oh, a little plug, a little humble brag here.
But it wasn't that much work. I had an opportunity to do a little bit of character design on a couple of characters in that episode, but it was a very small contribution. And the show What If, I also contributed in an even smaller way onto that series. And yeah, both of them are coming up in the next little while.
So season 2 of What If?
Yeah, there's one episode in particular that I contributed to.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and
But
other than that, right now, without IDW, it's been a little bit quieter in my evenings. So I'm drawing what I want to draw, and yeah. And if anybody wants to find me on social media, I'm on Twitter. My handle's under my name in the window here. And I also am on Instagram with the same handle. And I am not on Facebook.
Cool. Yeah, we'll also have a link in the show notes, and we will we'll tag you on this episode, so everyone should be able to find you. But yeah, thanks again for coming on. And as we wrap up the show, also want to give a shout out to our Masterpiece Donatrons. Those are the folks who continue to support the podcast at our highest level. So we give them a mention in every episode. So thank you again to John 4X11 Good and Demon Tech 82, who I think are both watching live. So if you are, thank you so much. And that's why we give you a shout out, because you guys are our go-to guys, our guys who hang in all the time. So we really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so that's it for this episode. Thanks again for watching and listening, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Later.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Transmissions. If you'd like to join the conversation, travel to our Discord channel at transmissionspodcast.com/Discord. Want some cool transmission swag? Feast your eyes on our transmissions gear at transmissionspodcast.com/shop. If you'd like to support our podcast, go to transmissionspodcast.com/support or tell your friends about our show. We'll see you next time.